Welcome to another edition of the Coach U Show. If you are a young adult and you want to make money online, this is an episode for you. Today we have Danny Liebrandt, who has explored everything there is in making money and things that worked and things that didn't work. And I want you to understand his story so you don't make those same mistakes, and also you can find out what actually works and what actually is easy to do.
Yeah, definitely. So, I can touch on my background a little bit. I've been running my agency, Pest Control SEO, for about 2 years now. So that is helping pest control companies, mainly with SEO, but overall digital marketing. And this is by far my most successful venture. So I've started a software company with a few of my friends. I've started different agencies. I've gone into affiliate marketing. I've started a Discord with over 1,000 people. I've grown my Twitter following to 11,000 plus people and trying to monetize that. Grown other brands of trying to do affiliate marketing of, I was trying to sell like spiritual stuff and then like alpha male stuff, and nothing really worked when I started out. So I would say I really became an entrepreneur when I turned 18 or so. So, my whole life was basically football and, because that was taking up the majority of my time in high school. And then once I hit 18 and I was starting to get to the end of my, high school career, kind of life started to hit me. I was realizing, I've got to start making money. I've got to start figuring something out for myself. And obviously, like most young people, or at least I thought like most young people, but I've still got a lot of young friends that haven't looked into making money online. But I always found it super attractive. Scrolling social media all the time, I'm seeing all these young guys that are really crushing it, making a lot of money. And, it's like make 10K and make 10K a month in the next 30 days, your money back guaranteed, and seeing all kinds of offers like that. Start your e-commerce store. That was a big one for me. So really trying all kinds of ventures, and nothing really stuck until I started copywriting, which was about 8 months or so in. And I can kind of give a meta point on that, which is regardless of what avenue you choose, it's always great to build fundamental skills that work no matter what the pursuit is. So I was doing copywriting for about a year, and there was a point after copywriting where then I started getting into website building and then doing SEO where I was like, dang, I spent so much time doing copywriting, like I almost feel like I regret it. Like, why didn't I just get into this sooner? But now looking back on it, I use copywriting every single day. Every single message I send, every single post that I make, all the descriptions that I make, all the titles that I make, all the thumbnails that I make, all of those tie back into copywriting, which is a core skill, just like selling, just like overall marketing. So really, no matter what you're doing, and you might just be starting out and looking into different ventures, the first thing I would recommend is developing a fundamental skill like copywriting, but it can be anything like that.
Who would have thought that Danny's skill in copywriting would lead towards being able to be a great podcaster, to understand what the angle is when you interview a guest and how you promote that episode, to building relationships, to doing lots of interviews with high-profile people, to having now one of the top podcasts in local SEO, and probably the best course for pest control companies, because he chose that niche. But think about your ability to communicate, to be able to talk to other people, whether they're clients or your brothers and sisters or other folks, and how that's so key in online marketing. You'll see all these people on social media posing in front of their Lamborghini, which is not theirs or whatnot.
Yeah.
But how many of them actually show how to communicate and show the process of building relationships? How many of them can have an in-depth conversation with someone else who is an expert? I would challenge you, when you see someone online that looks like, I'm making $100,000 a month, or this guy's making 50 grand a month, or $300,000 a month, see behind that, what are their actual communication skills? What are their actual relationships? Are they there just to try to collect your money by talking about how much money they're making? Or are they actually sharing a day in the life, how they do the stuff openly without requiring you to put in an email address? If I Google Danny Liebrandt, and you should Google it yourself, you will see what's called a full knowledge panel on Google show up. It shows all these pictures and videos because he has these relationships. He has the experience. He has done all these different things, and so Google can see that. If you see a young money bro that's talking about how much money they're making, and you see them doing these exotic, flash, flexy sorts of things, but you don't see real evidence, I bet you they're just trying to take your money.
Yeah, no, it's true. Most of the gurus out there are scammers. And relating to that, even if they are making money scamming, like if you're like a decent person, I don't think you actually want to make money scamming. Like, is that the whole point of life, is to just scam as many people as possible to then get the Lambo and then get like the nice, penthouse apartment? Like, that's not really what's attractive to me. I'd way rather build a real business that builds real value and that I can be proud of, that I can look back and say, I'm so fortunate to help all these people. And I think that's really where we have to come at business, or that's really how we have to look at business, is how can we help the most people as possible versus how can I scam the most people possible.
So if you look at what Danny's done with his podcast, which is honoring other people who are the legends and top dogs in digital marketing, what you'll notice is that, as far as I can tell, he's never talked about how much money he's making and how many sales calls he's doing per day and all that. And you know why? Here's a little secret that a few of us know. The people who always talk about how many sales calls they have and how many deals they've closed, how much money they did this month, they're just salespeople. They don't actually deliver because they don't keep those customers. Because maybe they're able to talk a good game and collect the money, and they say, yep, cha-ching, $10,000 wired into my bank account. Now I'm going to the club to pop bottles. That person who paid the 10 grand is never going to pay another dime because there's no relationship there, because they're not delivering value. There's no reputation. So those people who talk about how much money they're making and selling, you don't see the ongoing relationship. And so what you'll see from Danny and I is we're talking about people that we've known for many years. Can you imagine, Danny, if I said, dude, I just had this plumber pay me $20,000, right? And I show like a screenshot of the money hitting my bank account. Do you think Richard McClure, who's a plumber, he's an HVAC guy out of Forney, Texas, do you think that if I said, yeah, I just closed Richard McClure, I took his money, right? Do you think if he saw that on Facebook or Instagram, what would he think?
He would be horrified, basically. He would see it and be like, dude, what? I thought we were like friends. I thought you were like really trying to help me in my business. Like, what? You're just trying to take my money? Or are you just trying to scam me? Yeah. So that's what it comes off as.
It's like prostitutes that are talking about how many Johns they've had.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be like that? So the people who Danny and I know, who are actually super successful, we never talk about how much money we make. So Danny, you sort of fell for one of these things too, by a guy who promised easy money, that you're going to make all this money online. What like in a nutshell happened, and what's the lesson for everyone here?
Yeah, so I think this was at least a year ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point. But I won't name the program and I won't name the guy, but it's a very popular program. I think he's doing over $20 million a year or so.
There's a lot of them like this guy, so it doesn't matter which name it is. They're all like this.
No, there's a lot of them, and at the time I was really struggling to grow my agency. I maybe had one client, maybe 0 clients at the time, and my whole life goal was just to build this agency and get clients no matter what. First off, no matter what you're doing, having that limited mindset of, I need a client, I need to start closing deals, is when you start closing deals in the wrong way and you start doing business the wrong way. So in that regard, I bought this course, which was about $10,000 total, $1,600 a month for 6 months. So it actually might kind of expose it. But regardless, in the program,
but they didn't position it as a course.
No,
they're going to close these deals for you. They're going to do everything. There's no risk, and you only pay on results.
Yeah,
which a lot of them do.
So essentially, that's what they did. They said it was like pay on results, and we'll close the deals for you. When actually that wasn't the case at all. It was you go through our courses, and we have like some weekly coaching calls, and that's basically it. And you have to figure it out on your own, and money back guaranteed. Except you have to do X, Y, Z. So when you actually look at the contract, it will say, you have to show up to, 50 out of the 100 coaching calls that we do over the next 6 months. And you have to, if you don't show proof that you've done this and that every single week, then we can't do it, which they make that seem like that's to grow your agency, but really that's just so they won't give you the refund.
Yeah.
So regardless, what they were teaching in the program was all really spammy and bad reputation tactics of, maybe it's cold calling. That was the biggest one, arguably. I would say that the biggest lead generation tactic that was pushed for agencies to get more clients was cold calling. And I never felt comfortable with it just naturally, intuitively. And as me and Dennis talked more about it, I really truly realized that the best way to get clients is through reputation and brand. You don't want to be the guy who is just hustling, trying to take people's money. You want to be the number one guy in the space that everyone trusts, that everyone loves.
But you say that, Yet most people who were in your situation back then say, I don't have a reputation, I don't have clients, I need my first client, I'm desperate. This program claims that it's going to do everything for me and give me all these clients. And so what was your thinking back then?
Yeah.
Because you can say, yeah, like easy, like I think you even told me, easy for you to say, Dennis, because you're well known and blah, 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 right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, what I started out doing initially, which one component of this you can tie to the podcast. The podcast has definitely helped me. And how you can think about this as someone starting out is that the podcast, when you start a podcast and you have all the experts in the space, then you borrow their authority. So you can actually have no authority, yet still have all the authoritative people on your podcast. And that by proxy, people seeing you with all the most authoritative people, that gives you authority. So that's like a little hack of, regardless of who you are, almost anyone will come on your podcast.
But you even told me when you just were about to start podcasting that, well, I'm a nobody. So why would anybody want to talk to me? And you didn't even want to interview these people. Now you've come the other way. What was that transformation? And what does that mean for these other young adults that maybe where you were a couple of years ago?
Yeah, well, what you were saying, I actually forget who you're quoting, but one big podcaster and networker that you said had Elon. Who was that?
Steve Sims.
Steve Sims, that has had Elon on his podcast and all these huge people. His key to getting everyone on his podcast was just ask. That's all you have to do is just ask. I was actually baffled at how many people said yes to coming on my podcast, even when I was just starting out. Like, we were just talking about this the other day. One of the top people in local SEO, Greg Gifford.
Oh yeah.
I think he was my 4th or 5th guest. Like my podcast was nothing. The camera I was using was horrible. I was using the built-in camera on my like 2018 MacBook, and yet I still got Greg Gifford on the podcast. So you really don't have to think about it too much. Most people will be really receptive as long as you are niche. You're coming at it from the right place, not like, oh, come on my podcast so I can steal your authority. Like, no, like reach out to them and say, I really respect you. I love what you're doing in the space. Like, it would be an honor for me to have you on the podcast. And when you approach it that way, in a heartfelt, sincere way of like, I genuinely want to learn from you. I want to honor you. I want to have you on my podcast. Most people are willing to do it.
Especially if you provide context to say, I've had Neil Patel and Greg Gifford, and I saw that in one of your past episodes, you talked about this and this, and I would love to ask you a little bit more detail about this and this, where now you're showing, you're personalizing that outreach so they understand, like, it's not some generic ChatGPT written outreach cold spam software that spams 1,000 people to be on the podcast.
Yeah, no, that's a good point to mention. Most of the people that I reach out to regarding the podcast and really just in general, there is some personalized element. I'll look through their whole profile. I'll maybe watch a podcast that they've been on or that they've had people on. I'll get a good background of who they are, because these are high profile people that I want to have on the podcast. And that's what it takes to get them on. So, it's the same way with doing outreach to get clients. When you're doing outreach, you don't just send the same thing to everyone like, oh, hey, would you like to be a client? Like, no, you have to put some effort into it and show them that you really care, and they will likely be receptive.
Yeah, for example, you might say, hey, I was looking at your site, I noticed that you've got a broken link here, or that you have a really good story here, your reviews are good, and you're ranking in this part of town, but your competitor's doing this and that. I would love to walk you through what some of these other competitors that are outranking you on Google are doing this better than you, and just give you value and show you. And you actually demonstrate real data that you've done research, not some generic thing like, oh, I'm the best pest control guy. Book a call now with me, right? Mm-hmm. And then, oh, just following up. I noticed you've not booked a call. Please book a call now, right? Don't do that. Podcasting, clients, getting quality team members, it's all the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Danny, when back to the beginning, for a lot of these guys that are watching, they see this whole make money online as like a scam. Mm-hmm. And they don't see that it's real. What's the thing they really need to know?
Well, what you were just saying, making money online is completely legitimate. I wouldn't say I'm super successful by any means, but I'm very financially stable just from my digital marketing agency. And now I am releasing a course, I'm doing consulting, I'm doing all these other things that tie into the main skill. So first off, I'll say that it's definitely possible. And until you make your first $1 online, or your first 100, or your first 1,000, it doesn't really feel real. I remember the first $1 I ever made actually online was through Upwork. And I was just trying to find any job that I could. And at this time, that's when I found out about copywriting. But I wasn't even that far. I was just looking to get any job possible. So I believe the first job that I had, so I had a few kind of first jobs, but one of the first ones I did, which like made me actually a decent amount of money, I think I got $150. Like this is so ridiculous. I don't think I've ever told this story before, actually. I think I made $150 in order to make someone a list of 3,000 curse words.
Wow. ChatGPT can do that in 2 seconds.
This is how much I was grinding. And by the way, ChatGPT just came out at that time, so I was using ChatGPT, but it sucked so much that it couldn't even really generate. So I had to go online and look through different lists of curse words and take out bad ones, and then use ChatGPT to have some input. But that's how much I was hustling and how much I was, really willing to make money online. But doing things like that made me realize people are willing to exchange time for money. Like, I don't know, for whatever reason, that this guy's making like an adult children's book, some like random spinoff, or I don't know, some like crosswords puzzles, and he wanted this list. So doing something like that of making, my first $1,000 or $2,000 on Upwork really kind of opened the door and showed me what's possible. So I mean, starting on Upwork, it's really competitive now, but just as a principle, just making that first initial amount of money, just getting your first client, that will really open the door for you and show you what's possible.
So, Danny, for a young adult American who doesn't know where to get started, what should they do now?
Yeah. So like we mentioned earlier, you really need to develop one kind of skill and think about one kind of target market that you'd like to help with that skill. So in my scenario now I have, I was super broad. I was basically doing copywriting for anyone. Then for a little bit, I was doing marketing for anyone. And now I've completely niched down. I'm only doing SEO, and it's only for pest control companies. And obviously, there's maybe some variants there where we'll help with like a little bit of ads here or there, like some things outside of SEO. But for the most part, that's what I built my name off of. And now I can become the #1 guy in that space of doing SEO for pest control. And it's basically a hack.
It is.
You can do this for essentially any industry, and you just have to think about some of the top lead generation methods for each industry. And regarding niche, I don't know how new you are to the agency space and providing services as a whole, but niching down is where it's at. You have to pick one kind of target market, one kind of customer to help. And I think in terms of picking your niche, it should be some kind of market that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
So when me and Dennis first got in touch, I was working with all kinds of different people. I was working with agencies because I'm friends with agency guys, software because I'm friends with software guys. But I mentioned working with home service local businesses because my dad owns a flooring company. My uncle runs a construction business. My friends are big in HVAC. So I've really always been familiar with the industry. And that's why I decided to go into home services. So something for you to consider is like, what are you really familiar with? Is your dad like a personal trainer and that's like all you know? Or, is your mom a dentist and, that's all you know? And maybe you've like done some work at her dental practice.
Yeah.
I think that's really a big leg up that you can have is already having some initial experience where, maybe as a kid you were always helping them with their job. Like I was helping my dad with flooring jobs.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to really consider, and then talk to those people, figure out what their problems are, which usually it's lead generation. So then how can you generate leads for them?
Yeah.
So particularly in pest control, which, there's a whole story of how I got into pest control in particular, but figure out what skill sets can get them more leads. So particularly I found that SEO is great for pest control, but for something else like, for flooring, like my dad does, it might be Facebook ads, or for another industry, it might be mainly Google ads.
Yeah.
So figure out that target market and figure out that key skill that will really generate the leads and make the phone ring.
So just imagine this. If I were to put my services out there, it's like, I know how to do digital marketing. Maybe that's worth like $20 an hour on Upwork or something like that. But if I say, I do digital marketing for a particular, for like home services. Maybe that's worth $50 an hour because now a home service business is like, okay, this is actually more relevant to me. But if I say, I do this for plumbers, then any plumber is looking at this saying, well, this guy's, even if he doesn't have experience with plumbers, the fact that he says that he specializes in digital marketing for plumbers, that maybe he's worth $100 an hour. But if I say, I specialize in residential plumbers, and I specialize in SEO for residential plumbers. I specialize in building websites on WordPress that help residential plumbers rank better in the Google 3-pack, in the maps. Now all of a sudden, that's worth $300, $500 an hour because it's super specific. And so when you put content out there on how I help, here's things that I do on WordPress to help residential plumbers be able to rank in the 3-pack, then all these other plumbers, residential plumbers, will see this. So the thing is, like, you didn't really know that much about pest control, but you chose that niche, and that allowed you to build the perceived expertise around that. So I see a lot of you guys where you're doing a little bit of everything because you need money. You got to pay rent. You want to move out of your parents' house. I don't know, whatever it is. So you'll just take on any random thing that comes in. Think, well, I don't want to choose like roofing or pest control, or like, just choose one because you can always change. Because you started pest control, but then you realized it was the same kind of thing with local services. So we really love local services. So if you're trying to do everything like Facebook ads and video editing and WordPress, stop doing that, because then you're competing against these $20 an hour, $5 an hour Upwork people instead of like $305 an hour local when it's super niche. You could be doing the same thing, but if you're doing it for commercial HVAC companies that are in, I don't know, whatever category like that, you see like how niche that is.
Yeah, no, it's really incredible what niching down can do, and it's really a hack to authorities. And but one of the ways I was thinking about it initially is, okay, I really want to get into local SEO. But when you look at the local SEO space, I've interviewed a lot of the top people in local SEO. You look at people like Joy Hawkins, Greg Gifford, Mike Blumenthal, Greg Sterling. All of these people have 20 to 30 years of experience in the space. And it's me as a young guy who's, just has like maybe a few years in the space. How can I compete with people like that? And the way I can is by picking one particular industry. And by the way, these companies that are looking for people to help them with marketing, they will always prefer, or naturally always prefer, people that are industry specific. They know their industry. And even though it might be generally the same across different industries, like home services, it's basically all the same, but still they want someone that knows their situation in particular and has done it for people just like them.
So if you want to be like Danny, if you're a young adult and you agree with what he's saying about niching down, building relationships, being kind of an apprentice under other people, then reach out to us, because Danny and I want to help as many people as we can. And the best way for us to help these local businesses is by providing real opportunities for you guys. So we know the top pool builder, we know the top roofer, we know the top plumber in America, we know all these top categories, and they all need somebody like a Danny to be an entrepreneur, not an employee, but an entrepreneur to help grow that business under their name. And if you can do good work by building courses and doing consulting and hiring VAs and all that stuff that we do, then you're helping that person who's super well known in their industry be able to help like Nielsen wants to help all the other pool builders, right? They call him up all the time because he's super well known among pool building. So if you don't have a niche, or you have a chicken and the egg where like, well, okay, I agree with that, but I don't have any connections. I don't have a mentor. I'm not going to conferences. I don't have white privilege because I don't have a rich daddy who has a business or whatever. Then you see the content that Danny and I are producing. You have a cell phone. You have an internet connection. You can demonstrate thoughtful, active listening, understanding of what we're talking about. Make a 1-minute video demonstrating that you can you understand what we're talking about. And we will hook you up with these opportunities. Look at how many other young adults that are like Danny that have grown here. Google my name and see this, and I'd love nothing more than to see you be like Danny. I think there's a lot of Dannys that are out there that could succeed.
Yeah, and ultimately, me and Dennis's goal is to help as many people as possible, and your job in particular is to create as many jobs as possible. So really on this mission, we want to help out. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. You can Google us, whatever platform suits you best, and reach out, and we'd love to help.
Awesome. This is another edition of the Coach U Show, where we interview experts who have done the very thing step by step. Let us know. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.